Hello, everybody. It's Stephen and Walter here for another episode of So Chatty. It's episode 125, and it's December the 15th, 2023. 9 days until Christmas. And we go off to Georgia. But that's not what we're going to talk about today. Today, we're going to talk about our setup, how we do this. Because we've had several requests that people want to know how it is, what's our studio setup and everything. I'm afraid you're going to be a little disappointed because it's not that sophisticated. But it'll also explain, or as we go through this too, some of the problems that we have and, how we've overcome those problems as well. But anyways, before we do all of that, we have showtime. And so you've seen this in bits and pieces, and I did feature it on Idiot Quilter this past week. So you've already seen it, but it's the ugly sweater wall hanging that was in the Missouri Star Quilt Christmas box, the templates for it. And if you watch Idiot Quilter from this past week, I explained how I took the template and instead of doing it in the traditional way of applique, how I got my embroidery machine to do the applique for me. And I am very proud of that. And this is kind of cute. It turned out better than I thought it was going to turn out when I first saw the pattern. Okay, this is another project. I wanted to do something on Wednesday during Sewing with Stephanie and Stephen, but I didn't want to start a major project like another quilt. I'm kind of saving the next two projects I'm going to get started on anyways for the retreat in Georgia. But I had this kit to make a table runner that I bought last spring when we went out to Vancouver. It was on sale. Well, all that kit had in it was just the background fabrics that you see there right now, all the colored pieces. Ignore the little circles in that, which I call eclipses, for a moment. So that's all it came with, and it came with some binding fabric as well. The fabric was cut in strips, and then they told you how to put it together to get that effect, which is sort of a Bargello kind of an effect. The instructions, by the way, for that did have a flaw in them, but luckily I had done a Bargello before and caught the error that was in there. Otherwise, this would look totally different than you see it now. It figures I attract badly written patterns all the time. So, and you won't find this pattern, I don't think you'll find this pattern on a website because it's an old one and it was thrown together. I bought it, when I think about it, I think at that place we went to that we went out in the sticks on the side of a mountain, Carola's, whatever, Carola's, like color, and that kind of thing. And it was one of her own kind of things. And the instructions that were in it were, basically, I think she put them up on her blog at one point, and then she just printed them out. And so there's pieces where, you know how they stick advertising in the middle of blogs, like, I guess depending on what level you have purchased it at. She must have had the freebie version of it. And so it kind of scrambled a few things too. But anyways, I did get it together, and I decided it was kind of boring just with just color stripes. So I got out my AccuQuilt, I cut these circles, I appliqued them on, I thought I'd put a little shadow in behind them, and so I called this quilt, it didn't have, or not quilt, table runner, it didn't even have a name for it in the instructions, nothing. I call it Eclipse, because I think the circles kind of look like an eclipse, and I'm kind of happy with the way it turned out. So yeah, so that's another table runner from my collection of table runners that I don't know what to do with. This, now, speaking of table runners and Christmas, I thought I was done making table runners. I kind of like making table runners because they're... Have you got yourself settled?
Yeah, no, that's okay. I just was adjusting my phone so that it wouldn't make a noise if it went off.
Well, aren't you thoughtful? Really? Okay, so the other day, Designs by Juju had a sale on embroidery things, and I saw these three things, and they were like $3 a piece or something. And I kind of thought they were cute, so I bought them with no plan in mind as to what was going to happen with them. But then I was a little bit bored. Again, I finished that table runner, and I didn't really want to start another major project yet. So I thought, well, what will keep me amused? So I thought, well, I'll do these. And they're in the hoop appliques. And I kind of liked the way they were turning out. So I thought, well, what can I do with them? Well, I went through my Christmas fabrics drawer and found some scraps. And lo and behold, this is what I
Yeah, but
created.
what's that picture on the left of?
What picture?
The one on the left here. What's that?
It's a gingerbread boy. It's a turd. It's a Christmas turd with a candy cane.
Oh, okay. I sort of see the eyes
Yeah,
now.
well,
It's
when you
sort of.
see it in real life, it shows up
Oh,
better. It's
okay.
behind you, see?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess so. The picture doesn't really do it justice.
Well, it's probably the fabric. Any other criticisms you've got today? I'm sure you'll come up. Okay, it's not a gingerbread, it's a Christmas turd with a candy cane. Okay, whatever.
Well, it sort of looked like something with eyeglasses and like
Oh, yeah, his little hands look like that. I didn't design those.
okay.
Maybe I should have used a more solid gingery brown. But I just grabbed scraps and I thought that would make it kind of interesting. Well, it does. It's a Christmas turd. So there you go. I'm going to change the name. I was calling this Christmas Icons, a table runner. I'm going to change the name now to Christmas Turd. Shit on me, Christmas. Whatever. That's a sleigh. Did you get that?
Yeah, I kind of got that. The candy cane kind of disappears into the background too.
Yeah.
Okay, fine.
Okay. Bite me. Really? Good God. Okay, so this is what Walter's been up to.
Notice that the dangly thing hanging on the edge is actually your creation.
Yes, I know. The
Yeah.
danglies are mine. What's in the bag is mine too. This went to our hairdresser. Well, it's going to our hairdresser when I go next week. So, if you remember back a time ago, had those African fabrics, had that kit to make the African fabric table runner. Well, she's getting that, and I had some of that fabric left over, so I made matching napkins as well. And there's a box of chocolates in there too. But this is one of Walter's bags. Hmm. I don't know. Yeah, screw. I can't find anything negative to say about the damn thing. Oh well, so be it. I'm sure. Too bad it wasn't the other bag that you had the little oopsie. Never mind. On. Yeah. All right. So, anyways, that's it. And Walter's also been making, and I think that's the end of those. Oh no, this is the other side of it. Um.
I don't know why they kind of chose gray for the
Well,
for
you
the.
didn't have to use gray.
No, I know, but I used it because it was suggested. So,
I didn't think you followed anybody's suggestions.
well,
I
I
thought you did your
sometimes
own thing.
actually I did this one. I sort of changed. So,
Anyways, they're absolutely lovely. But he has made an. This one's kind of cool. I have to say that this one he's created, he's going to show you now, is cool. What have you got to show, Walter?
it's a wine bag. It'll hold 2 bottles, right? So there's this one design on the side of the wine bag. It's kind of nice.
If you do say so yourself, yes.
Yeah, and then
And
this one's another design.
oh, look how funny! Screw it.
And inside I put cork fabric. So it's all
Ooh,
corks,
and
right? And I put a divider in the inside so that it's velcroed in so that the wine bottles don't hit each other.
well, you just thought of everything.
Yeah.
Now, before somebody asks, so they will. Where did you get that design, Walter? That pattern?
I believe I got both of these designs at Urban
That's
Threads.
not what I asked you.
But,
But okay, that's fine. You got those at Urban Threads. What I meant was the pattern for the
oh, the
bag.
pattern for the bag? I just made it up out of my head.
So it's a
I,
Wally
yeah,
original.
so actually all I did was I looked up the dimensions of a wine bag on the dimensions of an average wine bag, like the paper bags and stuff, and just cut out fabric the same size and just made a standard kind of bag pattern.
And you were so clever with the division in it, so the wine bottles don't clank together and break
Yeah, well,
in your
that
bag.
I didn't have a pattern for. I just sort of did it. I did it out of my head. I've got the inside of it has got 2 layers of fusible batting and it's or fusible
Please.
fleece, and it's in the center. It's got a piece of Peltex,
Hmm.
Pellon
When you
Peltex
mean for the divider
for the divider.
to
Yeah,
make it stiff,
yeah.
so it stands up.
So it
Well,
stands up. Plus, it adds some cushioning so that the bottles won't clank together.
and your divider in there is covered in the same fabric as the lining.
Yeah, it's got wine. It's got corks on it.
Okay, well, it's kind of difficult to see as you flip it around, but
Hmm.
whatever. Okay, well, we got the idea. Well, ain't that nice?
Hmm.
Ain't that nice? Yeah, okay. So who are we going to give that to?
I don't know. I was thinking if the neighbors had,
Oh, yeah, yeah,
yeah,
we're
but I mean, you can
okay.
give it to them. But I don't know. We said we weren't exchanging
No,
gifts,
but
so
if they show up with one,
yeah,
we're prepared. We got them. We've got 2 bottles of wine and a box of chocolates.
yeah.
So, yeah, we're prepared. Okay, so yeah, I'm getting sick of doing Christmas projects, because it feels like I've been working on them since January. Well, actually, I have been. And actually, I've taken all the patterns that I saw later when I got things done. I put them all together in one grouping. So come next year, at some point, I'll just pull those out and work on some of those when I get in the mood for doing Christmas stuff in July or whatever. Okay, so some announcements. Stephanie and Stephen sewing on Wednesday. This next Wednesday coming up, which is the 20th. Yeah, I think so. Isn't it 20th? Yeah, 21st is Thursday next week. So the 20th, yeah. That is going to be our last one. No, we're not getting rid of them, but there'll be a 2 week hiatus, 2 week break from those because Stephanie and I and Walter and a gang of others will all be down to Georgia. In fact, on that Wednesday, the 27th, we'll be actually on. Okay, get away. We'll be on the road to Georgia, and so will Stephanie. And we'll be just getting home on the Wednesday after that, which would be January the 3rd. So, yeah. So you got a break for 2 weeks after this Wednesday coming. This one coming, the 20th, we will be doing a Sew with Stephanie and Stephen. Okay, completely confused now? Walter looks confused. But then that's kind of the usual look on your face. Yeah, except when you're smirking at me. All right, and before we forget, because we forgot to say it last week, this Sunday, Stephen and Walter Live will be on 1 hour earlier just for this week coming because we're going to my sister's for dinner. And she likes us there around 5 o'clock. So we're putting it on at 3 p.m. instead of 4 p.m. Eastern Time. So, if you note that. When I put out my weekly notification on Sunday morning reminding you of Stephen Walter Live, I will be saying that in that as well. So, okay, those are all the announcements. So, what we're going to do now is somebody requested they'd like to see what the studio sewing room setup is for doing our videos, what equipment we use, and things like that. I got that request a month or so ago. I've had it a couple of times actually. So we decided that that's what So Chatty is going to be about today. So it's not so much about sewing as much as it's about technology and how we get what we're doing right now to you. And there are a lot of people out there that would like to start a YouTube channel, but they think they need a lot of sophisticated equipment for it. You don't. If you have an iPhone or an Android phone or whatever, or an iPad, a tablet, a computer, you can do a YouTube channel. You do not need a lot of fancy equipment. However, the more equipment you have, the better your production quality is going to be. But we're going to talk about what our production quality is, which is pretty much close to bare bones. I've added a few things over time. So first of all, people think that we have a script. Well, we do not have a script. Just let me find here what I'm looking for. And I'll show you actually what a plan looks like. Okay, I use a product from Microsoft called Microsoft OneNote. Now, I use a Mac computer, but it works on a Mac computer as well. It is basically a type of a word processor, um, but it allows you to, keep things up on your screen, do categories, things like that. So you can see I've got lots of categories. It's basically a note keeper. And so this is where I plan my vlog, Idiot Quilter, So Chatty, Stephen and Walter Live, etc. It's not a script, it's bulleted points, but I have segments. And if you've been watching me for quite a while, you know what the segments are. But this is what it looks like. And I add to it as the week goes on because I usually have this all planned out 1 week before you see it. Um, so I add to it because it's constantly changing until the moment when I start to do the recording. And that's basically how I set it up and keep it organized. I don't write a script. You will notice that some people, some YouTube creators, they're looking into the camera, but they almost seem like they're reading. That's because they teleprompt. There are applications you can get for teleprompting. Some people use their phone and having set off to the side with their script, and they write their whole script out beforehand. I'm not a scripty person, as you probably well know. That's why on some YouTubes, things flow really well. There's no ums or ahs in it. Everything, they don't stop and go, oh, I should have told you about that. That's my style. Their style is a little bit more polished, but that's because they're reading from a script. Now, why don't I use a script? Because I don't want to spend the time writing one. I mean, that's actually adding to your time as a YouTube creator. And you will hear YouTube creators complaining all the time about how long it takes them to make one video. And one of the reasons it does is because they write out the whole script. So you're basically writing a short story or longer. And then you're reading it off. Well, that's too much work for me. Okay. However, I'm used to standing up and talking to people in a crowd because of my background as an English teacher. Some other creators are not. And for them, it's a comfort level. They would rather plan out their script in detail and read it to their audience.
Isn't that more like a fear of making a mistake?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't have any fear. I make
Or
mistakes all the time.
Fear of losing your track, what you're talking about.
Yeah, and I do that too all the time as well. We'll talk a little bit more about the editing process that we use later on in this. But that's just to show you, first of all, there is a plan. Okay, I don't just sit down, turn on the camera, and start rattling forth, although I'm sure some of you think I do. There is a plan, but it's not a script. Okay, so let's talk about equipment. Okay, now I said you can do this with whatever you have right now. Everybody has pretty much in this modern day and age something that they can make a video on. I mean, thanks to our cell phones, no matter what brand you have the capability of doing video in that. So that's all you need. Also, you probably have your computer, your laptop, or your desktop probably has a camera built into it, or you have a webcam. Most of us do. So that's all you need. You can use your built-in microphones in your laptop or your computer, or even on your phone. And if you have one of the newer iPhones, like the iPhone 14 or 15, the microphone that's built into them is very, very good. You get a fairly good high quality sound from those. Same with an iPad, if you've got a newer iPad. I'm speaking about Apple products because that's what I know. I'm not sure how Android work, but I assume that they have similar features that work probably just as well. Okay, so you already have it. There it is. You can make a movie without, or a video without any problem. However, I'll just show you what my basic setup looks like. And you can see a lot of screens on here, and I'm going to talk about those screens in a bit. But my central computer is my MacBook. Now, I used to make my videos on a Windows machine, and I was using the latest issue or latest version, words fail me, the latest version of Windows for it. And that was how I made my videos for a long time, because that's what I had. But was it 2 years now? I bought a MacBook because everybody says, whoever everybody is, that Mac products, Apple products, are the best if you're doing video editing and sound. And I will have to say, I kind of agree with them after having this system for 2 years. Doesn't make it any easier. There are things you have to learn, like editing programs, and we'll talk about those later on. But this is my basic setup. There's the computer. Now you see some other items. There are two Yeti microphones on both sides of the computer. I started out just using the microphone in the computer in my earlier videos, and eventually I decided to upgrade to Yetis. They seem to be one of the ones that everybody uses, and they're not that expensive. You can get them from Amazon. I think they're they might be just $100, $125, something like that. And I have two of them, and I just recently figured out how to make a right channel and a left channel on my system. You will notice that above the laptop there is an iPad, and above that is a larger screen. I'll come back to those later. Also, to the right-hand side of the screen, you see something that's kind of going off the screen. Not the number pad, but the little box that's got some little shiny buttons on it. I'll come to later as well. So that's our basic setup. Now, you do need some lighting, though. Now, if you're lucky that you have overhead lighting that is bright enough, that kind of thing, then no problem. But I have found that fluorescent lighting, or what I have in this room, isn't really bright enough. So I invested in I bought two of them. They sit on either side of my computer, up above, and they're LEDs, and they cost me, I think, for the two of them, under $60 on Amazon. They do have extensions. They will pop up or go down, like telescopic kind of thing. I have them down at the lowest setting because there's a little ledge behind my computer up there that they fit nicely on. I can dim them, or I can, make them brighter, but I have a default setting, and that's the setting you see when I took this picture, and that's what's on us right now. And it does make a difference, lighting. So it is something, I think, if you're seriously going to be making videos for YouTube, that you invest in some sort of lighting system. Now, some people get very elaborate. There are these great big huge ones that you can hang from your ceiling or from your walls that look like tents, kind of a thing. They're much more expensive, much more professional than what I'm using, but I don't have room for that kind of thing in here. And so these suit my purposes, and I've had these for quite a while now, and they're doing the job. I've already talked about the Yeti microphones. There it is then. The one thing you have with a lot of this stuff is a lot of wires around. I like the Yeti microphones. They have served me well. They can be adjusted for different types of sound, like you can set them up so there's only a field. It's what I have it set up with, so it's not picking up noises from beyond where we're talking. Like right now, you can't hear it, or shouldn't be able to, but the washing machine is going in the other room. And the microphones should be set up so they can't pick that up, which is a good thing. Okay, let's talk though about the meat of it, which is cameras. Now, there is a camera built into my laptop, my MacBook.
And that's what we're using.
And that's what we're using actually right now. Okay, but I have several cameras in this room, and if you've been on one of my Zooms on or so days, you will know that I switch between various cameras. This is one of them. This one is actually off to the side of my computer, but it's pointed towards my sewing machine. And so that's usually, I'll switch between it and the one in my MacBook when I'm doing a Zoom. And that's where the little box I mentioned a moment ago comes in play, but we'll talk about that in a moment. This is an older webcam, a 1080p, It's what I call my above camera. It sits on top of a set of cupboards that is over towards the left of me, and it looks down onto my what's in the center of my
Yeah,
room? My cutting mat.
you're cutting that.
In fact, I can show you on here what that looks like. So that's what that camera that I just showed you is looking at right now. And I can adjust it so that, I can be down more right now. I don't use that camera very often. So that's why it's shooting where it is now. The whole idea of that camera was to give you a top-down look at anything on my cutting mat that I might be constructing. And sometimes it does. I do that. Let's go back. Okay, so that's that camera. But I have this one. This one's a little bit more portable. This camera is also over by my sewing machine, but because it's on a tripod, I can pick it up and move it wherever I want to move it to. So if you've seen any of my videos where I'm showing you the embroidery machine, which is right behind Walter, I just pick this one up from where I keep it stored and I move it closer to that and adjust it, and then I can take shots from that. Right now, you can, this is what that camera's looking at. Now, this camera I don't like as well because you can see the quality of the picture on it. It's a little lower resolution. It's a little better when I have some exterior programs that allow me to focus it a little better. Right now I just push the button. I haven't set it up, but you can see that. Okay. Now, you saw me switching cameras. This is the little device that does this. Do you need one of these? Well, you need something that's going to allow you to switch between cameras.
If you have multiple.
If you have multiple cameras. If you're only using one camera, you don't need to invest in something like this. This, I forget what this cost me. This was not a cheap little item. It wasn't too bad. I think it was about 150 bucks. You can buy them on Amazon, but it's programmable, meaning all those little buttons that are on there, I can program them to what I want them to do. So when I switch cameras, I just hit one button for that. There are some quirks to it, but it does work very well. And in fact, there is an app version of this. So if you don't own a Stream Deck, that's what it's called, by Elgato, Elgato, they have an app that'll work on, now I don't know if it'll work on an Android phone, but it definitely works on an iPhone. You can download it and it essentially does the same thing. You'll see these buttons that are programmable and you can switch your cameras from it. And and you'll see pictures of that set up in a moment. I actually use that when it's over by my sewing machine because it's closer. So I don't have to get up from my sewing machine. If I need to switch cameras, I can use the app that's on an old iPhone, one of my older iPhones. The only trick with it is you have to pay a monthly subscription. It's not expensive. I think I pay under $5, and all my prices are in Canadian, a month for it. But I do use it, so that's why I pay for that. As far as the standalone Stream Deck that you're looking at right now, you don't need a subscription. You bought it outright. And there's a lot of things you can do with the Stream Deck beyond just switching your cameras and that, but I'm not going to get into all those different things because those buttons are all programmable. So just as an aside, if you're somebody that comes on to our lives and in the chat, you will see sometimes that I'll put up somebody's YouTube channel information. I can do that by hitting a button on my Stream Deck, although there's another program I use that'll do it for me automatically too, called Nightbot. A lot of creators use Nightbot. And I'm sure if you've been on any lives, you've seen Nightbot. It comes up, says Nightbot, and it does things. Okay, so that is basically my equipment for doing most of what we're doing right now. And, I'm going to talk about why you're seeing right now picture in picture. But the picture that's up there is another monitor and another computer that are off to the right of me. Now, these are items that I use when I'm doing Zoom. Zoom will allow you to use multiple cameras, but they all have to be connected into your login. So the only way that I can be on Zoom with two connections, two unique IDs, is I have to log into Zoom with two different computers. So for those of you that have been on Sewing with Stephanie and Steven, you know that I put up, or on my pop-up sew days, I put up a little, what I call a title screen. You know, it says welcome to pop-up sewing or welcome to Sewing with Stephanie and Steven. That's all being generated by this computer you see over to the side of me in this picture. And the reason for the big monitor is it's actually a TV, and I can watch TV on it if I wish, but it's also hooked into this computer. So I can sit in another part of my room and I can see who's on Zoom with me, besides what I can see on the regular computer screen. So one computer screen will have gallery mode, which shows you everybody. This one will be set up for speaker mode, which means it'll switch over to whoever's speaking at that time. It's just a way for me to keep track of what's going on. And I use it especially when I'm doing pop-up sew days, so I can control, what people are doing, or I can spotlight somebody. And it just gives me another dimension for different things. I especially use this setup when I'm doing the retreats, because there's a lot of computers for that when I do that. So that's that. Now, here's what the setup looks like when I am doing a Zoom. You've got the main computer, which is the Apple computer, the MacBook. And you've already seen the microphones. You can now see where the lights are located as well. But the big screen above me is where I'll put the Zoom gallery up on it. So why do I have an iPad in here as well? Well, I have discovered something that kind of doesn't make my Stream Deck obsolete, but makes things easier. iPads and iPhones have a facility in their FaceTimes that will follow you around. So when I put the iPad on there and I'm hooked into Zoom with it as well as the MacBook, if I move from that position, if I move over towards my cutting mats, the camera in the iPad follows me. So I can be on the screen in two different spots. I can have my one camera focused on my sewing machine, and this one focuses on me and follows me around, so I don't have to do any switching at all, the way I set it up. So that's how I use it that way. I also use it as a monitor to see what people who are hooked into the Zoom can see. Or when we do our live, it's also used as a monitor, but it's not set up in the position you see it now. It's off to the side, usually. So if I go to screen share, I can see if everybody's seeing what I'm seeing. So it acts as a way for me to see what other people are seeing at the other end of the source. It's getting confusing, isn't it? It's not that confusing, but you have to sit down and think about what you're going to do. But do you need to do this to have a YouTube channel? No, you don't. My very first videos I made with an iPad. And then I used my iPhone for it. When we started Stephen and Walter Live, we sat in our kitchen with the iPhone on a little baby tripod, and that's all we used. Then I bought some microphones. I bought a corded little lapel microphone, and we used that. We just set it on the counter. It was very primitive. In fact, there's a few old videos that show when everything kind of went toppled over.
Yeah, like the iPad fell over or something like that, and then all of a sudden it's
Yeah. Yeah.
And then there was one time when there was a problem with YouTube and it put everything backwards.
Yeah, YouTube was flipping everything backwards. with it. So you held up something that had writing on it, it was backwards, that kind of thing. Yeah, we've come a long way, baby, since those primitive days. So if you want to laugh, go back to those earlier ones. There, you have to go way back in the playlist for live ones, and you'll see what we're talking about with all of that. So something else about Zooms. You may wonder, well, where's Walter when we're on a Zoom? He's looking at his own stuff. Well, he's hooked in like everybody else.
Yeah, I'm hooked up upstairs and I just log in like everybody else does.
And what are you using for a camera upstairs?
I use one of the Logitech cameras, I believe, and my I don't have a laptop. I'm using a desktop version of Apple of
Mac.
Mac. So I'm using a TV set as a monitor, and I use the Logitech camera as my video camera.
Yeah. So you see, and if Walter wanted to make videos from that setup, he could without any problem with it too. So, all right. So you've seen how we record, like the plan, the equipment, but there is a couple of other things that we use. Again, this is not something you have to have, but it's kind of fun. Oh yeah, one thing I forgot to show you was this setup. This is over by my sewing machine. It's another iPad, and it's my old iPhone. And you see all those little icons that are on there? That's the Stream Deck, but that's the app version of it. And it sits up there so that I can switch cameras without getting up from my sewing machine and going all the way over to my desk to hit the buttons, because it's not wireless. It's all plugged into stuff. The iPad there is set up for like a Zoom meeting, and there's my title screen. You see that was from the other day when we were celebrating Stephanie's birthday during the Sew Day. That's all being run by that computer sitting over off to the side with the other monitor. So basically this is a convenience setup. If I want to have the camera on with that, I usually have it turned off. You would see my face in that one as well, but I don't usually need it for that. I'm just using that so I don't have to get up from my sewing machine when, for example, somebody comes into a Zoom and I have to admit them. I can do it right from there as well. I'm all about convenience. Yeah.
Yeah. So like there's a lot of creators that use like SLR cameras
Yeah.
or stuff like that, and we don't. You just use basically I either iPad or Mac, your computer cameras.
Yeah.
You're not usually any special cameras.
No, and the cameras that I'm using are actually webcams, and my highest resolution is 1080p. You can buy ones now that will give you 4K res. A little bit of overkill because it depends on what a person is watching your videos on. If they're not watching it on a 4K monitor, 4K television or something like that, then have you producing it in 4K doesn't necessarily make it better for them with it.
Plus 4K takes up a lot of space and everything else, and the files are really big and everything. So the value that you get from it, I don't think is necessarily that much of a benefit, especially in this kind of format.
Yeah. Now, eventually, most people, that'll be the standard 4K.
Yeah.
For more and more people are getting into the 4K world as far as for their viewing. However, you don't have to do that because buying those cameras cost a little bit more. I have no desire right now to upgrade any of my cameras. They're doing what I want them to do. If it's not broke, don't fix it. It's not worth the outlay of money.
Now, mind you, some of the products you have, like some of the products that we have will do 4K.
Yeah.
But your files are really, really big.
And you got to store them somewhere. And when you upload to YouTube, the bigger the file, the longer it's going to take.
Yeah.
And of course, that's something I didn't plan on talking about, but just as an aside here, all of this is dependent upon having a good internet connection as well. If you're going to be putting stuff up on YouTube, you want to have the best and fastest and most reliable internet connection you can have, because it used to take me for a 40-minute video, it used to take me an hour and a half to 2 hours just to upload it to YouTube. Now, since then, we've upgraded our systems, and YouTube has done a few things too to make their compression algorithm that makes things more in a reasonable side without losing a lot of quality in them, have made that a lot faster too. So now to put up, like for example, this video, which will probably run about an hour, it'll only take me 2 minutes, maybe, to upload it, which is a much better than the early days of when I first got started in it. You'd be sitting there, you'd leave your computer, you'd walk away, you'd go shopping for half a day, come back, and it would just be finishing up then for it. So yeah, that was very aggravating, especially if you made a mistake in it and you had to start over again. So I'm glad those days are behind me. So yeah, internet's important with that. So that's going to be one of your expenses, right? If you're going to go into this too. Now, something else that you may want to purchase though, and it's what I'm going to show you here. Now, this looks like me on my iPhone, but basically that is what we are on right now that's operating our sound, our video, the whole bit. It's just called OBS. It is a free program.
It's a software that's running on your computer, though, right?
It's software that's running on my computer. You do need some form of software on your computer in order to make a video. It's not enough just to have a camera, but your computer will come with something. It'll be maybe somewhat primitive, but it will do the job. When I used to make them on my iPad, for example, iPad comes with a Apple product called iMovie. It is a fairly basic editing program. It's not bad. It works pretty good. And I still use it when we're on the road and I'm doing videos, like when we go to Georgia, I'll have my iPad with me. And when I create the videos that we may make down there, if I'm going to put them up, I will use iMovie for it, if I remember how. But OBS allows me the ability to be able to switch cameras. It allows me to do what you're seeing right now, the picture-in-picture. It allows me to control the quality of the sound on the microphones. It does a lot of things. And I don't use most of the things that are on it, and it's a good thing that it's free. There is a learning curve with it, and depending on what you want to do, that learning curve can be very steep. But a lot of YouTube creators use this for their making their videos. But what about editing? OBS has some editing features, but it's kind of limited. I've already mentioned iMovie. It's an editing program for video as well, and that'll work on if you have a Mac. If you don't have a Mac, you're going to have to use whatever the equivalent is in Windows. And I did use something in Windows. There is Adobe Premiere, which is very expensive, and you have to subscribe to it now. I used to be able to buy it outright. It's very steep. Well, at least the last time I ever used it, which is quite a while ago. It has a really steep learning curve with it. And there are some, though, there's lots of freebies.
Doesn't this OBS also work on Windows?
Yes, yeah. OBS will work on multiple platforms. It'll work on Windows. It'll work on Mac. Now, it's something called open source software, which means it's constantly being developed by anybody. And there could be a danger in that. For example, there was one upgrade that screwed up everything when I put it in. I got rid of the upgrade and left it at one level. And that's a while ago, and I haven't upgraded it since. And I don't know if I want to. Again, it's like if it's not broke, don't fix it, because it's doing what I want it to do right now. So yeah, but it's free, and it works on Windows. It works on Macs. So yeah. And there's lots of YouTube videos out there about what you can do with it and how to do different things. So, I mean, it's very well supported by the creator community. Another program, though, that's a little more sophisticated, that's what I use for editing. And this one was an expensive program when I bought it. Almost looks like OBS, doesn't it? But it's not OBS. This is called Final Cut Pro. It is for Macs. They do not have this for Windows. Windows has other ones that you can buy. And I don't know what they are. You'd have to do a search. But this allows me to do, when you see the transitions in my videos, it allows me to put them in. It allows me to fix the sound, like if there's a lot of background noise for some reason when I was recording, I can eliminate some of that to make, so it focuses more on voice. It allows me to add text to videos, title screens, all that kind of stuff. It's a very powerful program. I only scratch the surface because I don't like editing. So I do bare minimal amount of editing, as I'm sure you're well aware of. But that's what I use, and that cost me, I think, about $400 when I bought it.
Yeah, that's the list price, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the list price.
That's the price that you have to pay.
Yeah, and well, you say it's the list price. Yeah, that's the price you have to pay. And
$3.99 plus tax.
And you don't get it on sale.
No.
It's an Apple product.
Yeah, it's an Apple product and you won't get it on sale.
Yeah. See, when you said list price, you made it sound like
that you get it cheaper.
Like it's the retail price.
No, that's the retail price.
That's the price.
That's the price, period.
And it might be more than that now. I don't know because I've had it for 2 years. And as I said, there's a huge, huge learning curve with this program. I only scratched the surface with it, but there are tons of videos about how to use it if you decide, for your Mac, if you've got a Mac computer, to get that. I'm not sure what's available for Windows products. There's all kinds.
There's a basic one that iMovie that you can use on Mac, but it doesn't do very much, right?
Where were you 5 minutes ago when I just talked about iMovie?
Yeah. I was there.
Well, you're sitting there.
Yeah, but you could use that if you're just starting out. Yeah.
That's what I said.
Yeah.
That's what I used to use with it all. Yeah.
Okay.
And it does allow you to do some transitions. It allows you to play with audio. It allows you to put title screens in and titles as well. It's a very good little program. However, it's limited to, it has to be for, I don't think you can you use an iMovie on a MacBook? Because it's actually an application.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
I think you can use it. You can use it on your iPad and your iPhone, but I don't know if you can.
I don't think you can use it on your Mac. You might be able to. I don't know out there, so don't quote me on that for sure, because I don't use it much. I only use it on the iPad. Okay, so that's basically the equipment and how it's all set up. And I know, as I said earlier, it can be very overwhelming. You build your system. That's what I've been doing. I've been building my system as a need comes up, or I think maybe there's a better way to do this. Then I start to explore it. Right now, I think I have everything the way I want it to be. But we'll come to. I do have some things on if I had the ability to do it, what I would do. But we'll come back to that. I want to talk a little bit about YouTube Live, because you don't see when we're doing a live what we see. And sometimes that gets people really confused, or think that we're, like in the chat, ignoring you or not. Basically, all the equipment I've already showed you, we use in YouTube Live. Only with YouTube Live, we have to connect into YouTube. And because we use OBS, there's a way that you have to. It gave me a lot of trouble when I first tried to do all of this for lives. It's tricky to get it set up properly. They've made it easier as time's gone by. And I'm not going to explain how to do that like as if I could, because I haven't done it in a while. So what happens when we go live? We're looking at this screen when we're live. This one is the camera that is focused on us now. But you saw the monitor above this, which is where we see what YouTube is seeing. And it has all these little statistics all around the screen. Okay? And then on the sidebar, we see the chat view, which is everything scrolling by very rapidly. That's why we get lost in the conversation sometimes, because I don't have somebody monitoring. That's why people have monitors, to let them know what they're missing. Walter's supposed to be my monitor, but he just,
I read this stuff, yeah.
yeah, but doesn't tell me I've missed something until it's like if he thinks I've made a mistake. Then, of course, he points that out to me. Very quick at that. Um, so that's why we're constantly looking up and down. Not
Yeah,
o-
that's why sometimes, like right now, I'm looking at the camera here, but then when um, I'll look at the big screen above it, and it'll look like I'm looking up.
because the little screen down here that we're looking at right now, if this was a YouTube live, does not show us the chat. We have to look at the big screen to see the chat. But there's one other screen. Off to the side, we have the iPad again. And the iPad is showing me what everybody else is seeing at their end. And there's a time delay between all three screens. And that time delay can be as much as 10 to 20 seconds. So we are 20 seconds ahead on this computer when it's live than you are. And that's why we sometimes miss in the chat, because there's delay. How come you're beeping?
I'm beeping. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What important meeting coming up?
No.
What, notes from your girlfriend, boyfriend, other significant? Yeah, it's not for me. So that's why we're looking all over the place and trying to keep up with the conversation at the same time because of all of this. So there is an element when you try to do a live on YouTube that is a little different than just doing a pre-recorded video and uploading it to YouTube because it's live. And then you'll notice that some YouTube creators, like Stephanie on Saturday nights, always says she goes through Zoom to YouTube. I just experimented with that for the first time today, and it can be done, and I might try to use it at some point in time. So basically what you're doing is combining multiple screens of people with the chat. So those people who aren't connected into you via Zoom but are connected into you by YouTube Live can see the chat, but they don't have to worry about showing up on the screen like their face and anything. That's where things are starting to get a little bit more complex. Okay, so how are we going to do it when we go to Georgia? Well, first of all, anytime, and you've seen our videos from Australia, we've done lives. We did lives when we were at Halifax in the spring for the Canadian Quilt Show. How do we do that? Well, that's where our iPads and our iPhones come in again for that. We can do it, but it depends on the internet connection. If the internet connection is fast and is good connection, then we usually don't have any problem doing a live using our iPads on location. And that's what we're going to be using in Georgia, because we are going to try to do some lives as well. If we can't do a live, then I will use iMovie to basically take videos I've taken, say, of a day when we've been out sightseeing on one of our trips, make that into a video, and I will upload it to YouTube from wherever we are in the world. Again, all dependent on the internet connection. So that's how I do those on the road. It's a little bit more simplistic. And of course, as I said, it depends greatly upon your internet connection then, but it can be done. Sometimes you'll see people do things from their car while they're driving. I have never done a live while we've been driving because I can't connect to an internet. Because my provider of my service, I do not pay the big bucks to have a data connection that won't be eaten up within seconds. You need almost unlimited data to be able to do that for any length of time. And here in Canada, our cell phone services, like everything else, are very, very expensive in comparison to what Americans pay for their connections. So you'll see those kind of things done more by Americans than you will find with Canadians, unless it's a rich Canadian. Yeah, so don't expect from a car live anytime soon, unless suddenly the rates go really down low. And that's probably not going to happen in this country. Okay, future expansions. what would I like if I had to redesign how we're doing things now? Well, I'd like better cameras. I would like a camera that is ceiling mounted with the ability to remotely have it zoom in any spot of the room that I want. I would like something with almost like a macro zoom. So if it's sitting in the ceiling and I want to show you up something close on the cutting mat, I can zoom right down without losing any quality. Those cameras do exist. They're expensive. Also, you got to run wires. That's the problem with a lot of these cameras. Some I do have some cameras that are actually, well, they still have to be plugged into a power source, but I can operate them from an app on my iPhone. But their quality sucks. And they're in this room too, but they're hooked up by my printer so that I can monitor my printers if I'm not in the room and I need to watch something. Um, a mixing board would be wonderful, but then that gets into editing and I don't really edit. So right now I can't think of anything that I would definitely go out and want to spend a lot of money on. My system right now is working for me. Uh and you're seeing it. So I don't need to spend any more money really on anything. Um it might be, and I do have some wireless microphones that I can hook in, but I don't use them very often. I find my Yetis in this room, wherever I'm in the room, work fine for that. So, yeah, that's how it's all set up. Thoughts? I did all the
I'm
talking
used to
today.
the way it is.
Yep.
So,
Well, it works for us.
mhm.
Um, and that's all that matters. You have to find a system that works for you. But if you're thinking of getting into this, into putting up YouTubes, look at what you've got already and experiment with that. Because you'll already have the bases. Computer, microphones built into your computer probably, a webcam, which is probably already built into your computer, and an internet connection. You have those and a YouTube account, you can be a creator too. And as time goes
Or
by,
worst comes to worst, they could use their phone or whatever
yeah,
too. Yeah.
yeah, you can just use your phone, period, or just your iPad, period. Because they both have microphones, they both have cameras, and the quality in an iPhone, anyways. Like we have iPhone 14s, the quality of the video and the sound on an iPhone 14 is very, very good.
Yeah, the more previous models to the 14, the sound was a little bit iffy
Yeah,
on what you would get, but the new ones
they've really
seem
improved
to
it.
they have improved them.
And I mean, the i15 is out, the iPhone 15 is out. I have no idea, but I suspect that it's got some extra features in the camera mode too that 14 doesn't have. So,
Hmm.
yeah, the technology changes very, very quickly and it gets better. Okay, so I hope we didn't bore you to tears. And when I say we, I mean I, because Walter just sat here and made facial expressions, which I'm sure you were all watching and laughing at
I
with it.
yawned a few times because I was up really early this morning. So
That's a story and he's sticking to it. Yeah, had to get snow tires on the car for Georgia.
I don't know why, because it's like 10 degrees here.
Yeah, it's really nice here right now. But anyways, we better safe than sorry. So, just some comments from last week's So Chatty that people made, and these are about the Santa sack. One person said, I'm not a fan of the stocking pattern either. That was the one of the fabrics. This is actually from Stephanie.
It was a pattern,
It was,
quilting pattern, right?
yeah.
And and
Oh, well, no. There was, yeah, it was a quilting pattern.
it was
That's
a
right.
quilting pattern, and then the fabrics were separate. That I don't know if they were meant to be used with that pattern or not, but
Yeah. Yeah. What did I do with that pattern? It didn't throw me either way.
mm,
Now the cleaning brushes. Now a lot of people said this. I said cleaning brushes, they look like little Q-tips. What am I going to do with those? That looks useless. Well, apparently, no. People love them. Everybody raves about them. They use them all the time. I have not tried them. Maybe I should. I have my method, makeup brushes and kind of stuff. But they talk about, and I guess one thing that I hadn't thought of, those are supposed to be good for cleaning out your feed dogs, which I could see that because those are little
Hmm.
gaps in there. So, I mean, I used air, and I don't use canned air. Okay, so before you tell me, don't use canned air because canned air has moisture comes out of it and it clings to all your little dust balls and it just gums up your machine on the inside. I have one that is electric. It's rechargeable. It just blows out dry air. It doesn't have any moisture in it. It doesn't have Freon or whatever is in those cans to make them spray. Um, this person, well, this is Stephanie. She says she also loves the seam guide tape, which others of you are saying you love it too. I tried it once and I didn't like it, but somebody told me that they have a Bernina and they can't use the seam tape with it. It doesn't, for some reason, doesn't line up with their needles somehow, which,
I find it odd because
yeah,
the place that we got the stuff from is actually a Bernina
Bernina
dealer.
dealer. Not only that, but you can move your needle. Like that's the idea to move your needle so it lines up with the seam tape. I just I don't like it on there. I have a good foot, quarter-inch foot that works
Actually,
well.
occasionally I'll use a tape for if I go to 5/8 inch because it's a little
Oh,
bit more difficult
so you
to.
just use what, masking tape
I
or
use
something?
masking tape.
Yeah, and people use that and painter's tape too. You can do it. There's a bunch of methods for it. So yeah, that's one that I didn't care for. Um, Stephanie, so she agreed with me that she thought last year's bag was better than this year's, and I think so too. But I hesitate to say that for sure because it might have been because last year was the first year I ever got it, and so I
Yeah,
was excited. Now
you're
my
a little more critical
yeah.
this year.
Another subscriber, Laura, said, I think the table, I wasn't sure when I saw the pattern, but the one you made is beautiful. Oh, that was for the table runner, in which I was not sure about the colors with the pink, the red, and the aqua, but I love those colors together.
Yeah, that's from the Missouri Star
That was from
Company.
Missouri Star. Yeah, that wasn't the Santa sack there. But then she went on to talk about the Santa sack. As for the Santa sack, it might be nice if they had a selection of Santa sacks available. For example, maybe they should offer a beginner, advanced, experienced quilter or sewer option. I think I read this one on
Hmm.
live the other day, and we already addressed that issue. And thought, yeah, that might be nice, but the problem is they're a business. It already takes a lot of time to put these together, and I doubt very much that they're really going to basically make three different levels of sack kind of a thing. It would be nice, but I don't think it's practical from a business point of view. Um, Someone else said, I'm thinking that these gift boxes bags are increasingly tricky for quilters who have been at it for a while. We all have our favorite tools and prefer the choice to choose our own fabric. I would agree with that. I think if you are a beginner quilter, these will be exciting for you. If you're somebody that's been quilting for years around, I think it's going to be
Yeah,
same old, same old.
but if you're looking at being Santa Sack as being a practical item for you to buy, that you think you're getting like better value than what you could get by buying the stuff yourself, you can't really look at it that way. You kind of have to look at it as it's a gift that you're giving yourself,
Yeah,
and it's sort of a surprise what you're opening
yeah.
with it, you know.
And actually, a lot of people say that this is something they don't get Christmas gifts. They may be living on their own or whatever, and so they buy this for themselves as a treat, as a gift to themselves. And I have to say, I have a lot of fun opening them. So for me, it was worth the price for that, the excitement and the whole bit. Sure, not everything suited my taste, but they can't make it completely to my taste. And plus, I have a lot of stuff too. So yeah, I just like the excitement, and for me, that's worth the money. Um, and this one said, I would think that maybe if they included more fabric or a small kit of some sort would make it more exciting. I'm like you, we old time sewers have lots of notions and don't need more. The bag they made is adorable. Those cleaning sticks work good for cleaning out around the bobbin area. Okay, so yeah, more fabric. I'm sure all of us would like more fabric, but fabric's expensive. So if they're going to put more fabric in one of those bags, they're going to have to up the price of their bag. And there's a price point where people won't go over for this kind of thing. So it's a fine line. They have to balance, because they're a business. They got to make something on the bag.
Yeah.
I don't imagine they're making a whole lot of money on them. I don't think they put them out there necessarily to make money on
See,
them,
it goes
but break
back
even at least.
goes back to what I was saying about some people look at this as a sort of like something that's practical that you're getting that's a better value than you going out
Yeah.
and buying it yourself.
Yeah. Um, Next one's uh, as far as the Santa sack, it should be advertised as a quilting sack for beginner quilters. I didn't see the value in what you paid versus what they said it was worth versus what was in the sack. Many of us are in the age group where throughout the year we could purchase small items, wrap them up, and put them in a box at Christmas to open because we forgot we bought them. Laugh out loud. Um, and then they said, Stephen, you're funny that your favorite item was a light on a stick. We do have flashlights on our phones. Yeah, but I like that. I thought it was a cute idea. Not sure where I put it.
Well, the flashlight on my phone isn't as bright as that thing is.
Yeah, that one was really bright. But yeah, of course, it's a novelty item, but I like
Yeah.
novelty items, so that's
It's a
okay.
toy.
It's a toy. Yeah, toy for big
We
boys.
all like
We all
toys.
like toys. But again, we're going back here to how do you put the value on the sack? And this is Walter already said. If you're looking for it to be practical items that you're going to get lots of value from, no, some will be, but not all. I just look at, as I said, the sheer fun. The sheer fun of opening it up, the anticipation, the excitement. Um, Another person said, Carol, she said she liked the small cutting mat, which I poo pooed, only because I've already got all kinds of cutting mats, and I've got ones that size too, which I don't really use. But she says she likes them because she uses them for trimming up half square triangles and flying geese. And yeah, and they're great if you're going to a retreat or to a class or something and you're going to do something that's small. You don't need to get out a whole big, huge cutting mat. Um, so yeah, they have their purpose. It was just that I already have some, so I don't need it. Um, this same person said, I purchased the Fat Quarter Shop's Jolly Box the last 2 years, but I don't plan to buy again. Like you, I already have the notions I need, or I would buy what I needed at the time I needed it. And I definitely want to select my own fabrics. I haven't figured out how to get accurate seams with diagonal seam tape because the printed lines are too wide, and I have a Bernina. This is the one that was talking about the Bernina with it, too. So I'm not sure what that means because we don't have a Bernina. But anyways, that was just some of the comments people made about it. I guess it really depends on you whether you want to invest in something like this. You are taking a chance, but I think you have to look at it from the point of view it's just fun. Just do it for fun. You don't have to buy it. Will I buy them next year? Yeah, I already told you I will. I am going to buy. I'm going to buy the Missouri Star Quilt box again next year, and I'm going to buy the Kawartha Quilting Santa sack again. I'm not going to buy any other ones though. And Stephanie, she's been opening a lot of different ones as well. Like the cotton cuts do seem good, but the price on it is astronomical when you do the exchange rate and the shipping
To
with
Canada.
it to Canada. Yeah. And you might even be nailed with customs. That's always a spin of the wheel, whether that will happen or not here. And we don't have many in Canada that offer these boxes. And the few that I know of or that have, some of them are just crap. Like pure unadulterated crap.
Yeah, I know it's bad when, like in course, quilting really doesn't do this, but it's really bad when they start including gifts that are promotional items. Like course quilting did have the light in the pan as a promotional thing, but it wasn't included
It
as the
wasn't
gifts.
included as one of the gifts.
No,
No,
like it was
that was
just a
just a
little
little
extra thing that they
bonus.
threw in,
Yeah.
right? And whereas there was one last year that Stephanie opened where they put in promotional items is as gifts,
Yeah.
right? And they also included the bag that it came in as the
They
gift
counted that
too.
as one of the gifts as well. And the bag wasn't that exciting
No,
with it all. So, yeah, I think that was Quilting Genie
no, I thought that was a quilting gnome,
or Quilting Gnome. That's it. Quilting Gnome. Should have
and
remembered that.
and they I just they didn't. I don't think they produced one this year because
No.
they had a lot of negative comments
Yeah.
from the previous year.
And rightly so. They should have because they were
Yeah, because they
basically.
did pay. You did have to pay quite a bit of money for
Yeah.
that, and a lot of the stuff that was in the bag was just junk.
Yeah.
Like I mean, not even like, I mean, junk is in like a number of items were promotional items that were probably provided free to the store. So,
Yeah. Yeah, that was a bad one. So yeah, you take your chances. Um, but I think Missouri Star Quilt and Kawartha Quilting are tried and true with it. So I don't
I mean,
think you'll be disappointed.
they do their best effort to try and put something together that's nice. And
And
I mean, they
fun.
can't please everybody,
No,
so
and fun. You know, so yeah. Okay, so I don't know what we're talking about next week. Um, I'm sure we'll find something, but if you have suggestions, put them in the comments below. We're always welcome. We always welcome suggestions for ideas for things that
we
we
may
think
not
we could
always
talk.
take them,
We
but
may not always be able to do them,
yeah.
but for one reason or another, but we love your suggestions. Okay, so that's it for us this week. Remember, Stephen and Walter Live will be on the air 1 hour earlier on Sunday this week at 3 o'clock instead of 4 o'clock because we have to go for din-dins early. So have a good weekend, everybody, and we'll see you soon. I hope.
Yeah.
Okay, say goodbye, Walter.
Goodbye, Walter.